Okay, we're going to try to graph the polar graph r equals cosine 3 theta the way we did in class, the way it's in the notes, and the way you probably saw it in Calc 2. Meanwhile, the very first thing I want to do is graph r equals cosine 3 theta as if r was y. So let's put a little r up here like this. And if theta was x, I'm going to go like this. And we get a graph that looks like that. It does repeat. If I need to draw more of the graph, I'll draw more of the graph, but I'm hoping this is enough. Meanwhile, what we decided to do was to first plot the extreme points and the zeros. Now that corresponds to theta is 0, r is 1. When theta is 0, we've got a ray that's pointing directly due east, and I'm just going to go out 1 unit and plot my point. That's great. The next point that's important is at pi over 6. The idea is by the time you get to the ray of pi over 6, r is already 0. So that's going to come back like this and just completely flatten out there. Now between pi over 6 and pi over 3, I want to draw more of the graph. And normally you would draw it out here, but r is negative, which means you have to actually draw it back here. And what happens is back here we have r getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's 1. So that's just going to look like that. And then between pi over 3, this is pi over 2. And pi over 2, it goes back to 0. So it looks like that. Between pi over 2 and pi over 3, it gets bigger and bigger until it hits that point. So I'm just going to draw that like that, ruining other parts of my graph. Between 2 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 6, it gets smaller and smaller until r is 0. So it's just again smaller and smaller like that. And then between 5 pi over 6 and pi, r gets bigger and bigger. Normally you'd think you'd be out here between 5 pi over 6 and pi. But r is negative, which means you're back over here until the r is actually out to 1 again. And so you're just going to have that. You can see that this is actually what they call a 3-leaf rose. I don't think it's too hard to figure out how the equation would have to change so you could get a 4-leaf rose. For integration purposes, very often they're going to ask for just 1 leaf. The problem is that my equation started in the middle of a leaf, and it had half a leaf by the time I got to pi over 6. That says if I wanted just 1 leaf, the inequalities I would have to use most easily, I think, is just minus pi over 6 to pi over 6. And that's sketching the graph of the 3-leaf rose and enough inequalities that we can get the 1 leaf.